What is up, you guys, and welcome back to another live stream here on the Sergeant Tank YouTube channel. My name is Jeremy. Thanks so much for joining us. Today is just a general Q&A, so just put at Sergeant Tank all together along with your question, and that will highlight for me. So we'll hang out for a little bit here this afternoon, and no big plans, no big topics for today. I hope everybody is doing well. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Seems like 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time seems to kind of be the time um, from the community that folks are liking. So we will kind of stick with this. Tentatively, we'll continue doing these weekly. However, may end up switching it up and doing them every other week. So just have to kind of wait and see. Just thinking about all week, what topic, even from last week's live stream, which you can go back and watch. I'll link that up here after this live stream so you guys can check it out if you want to. It was going over auction preparation and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's been quite hectic and busy, obviously, as I mentioned before. If you aren't aware, we do, and we have been dealing direct consumer and wholesale since 2007 in the aquatic pet industry. So you can check us out over at sergeanttank.com. So I won't spend much more on that. But if you're looking for some good condition and capitally bred specimens of livestock, live food starter culture, Sergeant Tank apparel, merch, dry goods, and that sort of thing, you can check it out over there, as well as the events section. You can check out nothing on there as of yet. But anything that we are part of as far as Sergeant Tank goes would be in the event section. So upcoming presentations, meetings, and that sort of thing. So keep an eye out for that. And then you can also check out the article or blog post that I have on there as well. We got Frank Dominguez in the house, Natural Aquariums, Ask Jeffrey's Fish Keeping. Hello, hello. What is up, y'all? Hello, Mr. Jeremy. Hope you and the family are well. Love you, bro. I appreciate it. Much love to you, my friend. I hope the little one is doing well and you guys are doing well. Get a hold of me at some point. Love to catch up with you. Let's see here. And there is about a 20 or so second delay, so just bear with me. So if you notice some silence, that is the reason why. I'm just waiting for questions to come in. If you guys enjoy this sort of content and you want me to continue doing these, kind of helps us within the whole grand scheme of things here on YouTube by liking and sharing it out. Obviously, if you guys aren't subscribed, I encourage you to check out some of our previous live streams and videos and that sort of thing. And if you enjoy that sort of content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications with that little bell notification so you get updates. Over on the community tab is where I'm going to generally be updating you guys here and sharing out any links or any updates, that sort of thing. Also on occasion over on Instagram, which is you can check us out. And all these links, like I said, is over on our website at sergeanttank.com. So you can also check out any social media links and that sort of thing on there. As I mentioned before, the OCA, so we will be going to that event. It's one of my all-time favorite events, one that should be pushed, in my opinion, much more. If you're looking for a very good, relaxing, very cost-effective, depending on where you're coming from, overall reasonable in overall expectations that you would have as a fish keeper, specifically in freshwater aquaria. That is the Ohio Cichlid Association, Ohio Cichlid Association Extravaganza. You can check them out. Just Google OCA or Ohio Cichlid Association Extravaganza on Google, and there will be some links on there for you guys. You can also check them out on Facebook. You can just search OCA or Ohio Cichlid Association on Facebook and get the information there. I don't know. I'm not being sponsored by or paid for by or anything like that. I just always try to push that event now that it's actually back in person this year from everything that's been going on. And I always encourage folks, if you're looking at trying to go to an event and you've never been to a convention, it really and there's other great ones as well. Don't get me wrong, but the OCA is just one. A lot of misconceptions, thinking it's only cichlid related or whatever the case might be, and that's just as far from the truth as you can think. So when you have the option for room sales, you could sell yourself. If you get a room and that sort of thing. Like I said, I've talked about this a lot before in the past. You can just search our repertoire videos here on YouTube, and I've even shown livestock. I've shown the process in the past. You just have to search on the channel. That was a few years ago, but when I was actually physically there. So if you want to check it out, get a little bit more behind the scenes insight and that sort of thing, then I encourage you to check it out. Just put at Sergeant Tank. If you guys have any questions, no questions yet. Typically how these things go is when it is a open discussion, open topic, essentially we try to stick with fish keeping and really anything that revolves around that. Just put at Sergeant Tank with your question and we can address it. And if there really isn't much, I'm going to give it a few minutes. Then we'll probably cut this quite short. But yeah. So, like I said, just bear with me. There is a delay. Again, just put at Sergeant Tank, so I know that the question is from me. I don't mind. Obviously, you guys talking amongst yourselves in the chat. It's a little bit different format because I'm looking at a different screen than what you guys are seeing. All right. And if you guys would like, feel free to go ahead and share it out. Really, again, you guys, that's how I kind of let you guys kind of facilitate the direction of these type of open discussion topics. And chances are I've already discussed a lot of these questions in great detail in some previous videos. So that's why I always encourage folks to just check out, check out our repertoire videos. All right, let's see. We got Brandon in the house. Hello. We got Scott's Aquatics. Hello. Let's see. Trying to think. We have our big auction coming up here. So keep an eye out for that. We talked more about that last week. Talking about preparation. I went into full detail talking about aquarium clubs and in the auction, specifically with auction preparation. But this is the time of the year where you want to start paying attention to some of those things just by doing a simple Google search. Look and see what aquarium clubs are in or around your area. And the best source to do, you can't find it online, go to one of your local fish stores if you have one. And oftentimes LFS, the local fish stores work and support one another with these aquarium clubs. So that is a question I've received over the years, is how do I know if there's a club and that sort of thing. And my best recommendation, like I said, I know with today's technology, essentially you can just go on the internet. However, if you want to really narrow it down specific, maybe there's just one just kind of getting going and maybe hasn't really been on the radar, that sort of thing, then I would definitely check with either some other hobbyists in your area, local fish store, that sort of thing. Southwest Michigan Aquarium Society has big speaker day coming up. Look like some good people. Yep. I did see that. We got Mike in the house, Fish Shank Barn. How you doing, buddy? That is correct. Amazonas Magazine does also list club events. Yep. I'm going to look that up. Do a quick Google search here. Let's see. That is one I haven't. The Iguanectes, and obviously there's different species within that. That is one I haven't actually personally ever seen myself. So, yeah. It's a neat looking specimen. All right. Correct. That is the family of fish. All right. Let's see. Oops, already showed that. But I mean, there's literally hundreds and thousands of aquatic specimens that, many, especially within the U.S. Again, until they've actually been imported, that sort of thing. I'm sure there's probably information out there, but it's just not one I've personally worked with. I got a reading of 8.5 in water that reads under 6.5 when using the dip strips. So you must be talking to like the API aquarium test strips or something equivalent to that. And you must be referencing like your pH level. I guess if you can kind of, not sure your question there. It's more of a statement. So if you can just kind of elaborate a little bit. Personally, those test strips, if there had any residual moisture retention at some point in them, if they weren't stored properly, I've had some skewed results in the past, even if you use them, no matter how long you've been in the hobby. Personally, I like the liquid versus the if I'm going to be testing and do more an elaborate test, that sort of thing. Personally, I like the API, like the liquid test kits, that sort of thing. When it comes to conditioning water, we use Safe. Order it in bulk. That's how we condition. There's other things that go along with it. I'm not going to elaborate too much on. I always say that you got to have somewhat of a competitive edge in this niche, because there wasn't as many when I started doing this many years ago, especially when it comes to distribution, overall selling, especially from an e-commerce standpoint of aquatic organisms. So, but yeah, the simplest answer, if you're talking about water conditioning methods, if we have to dechlorinate or that sort of thing, again, there's lots of different products depending on where you're at, but that's the one I prefer. Let's see. Yeah, pH meters are nice. Just make sure that you calibrate. That's what I would recommend, that you have the option to do a manual calibration and get the calibration kit if it doesn't come with it. Don't skimp on a good one. You can look on eBay, Amazon, depending on where you're at. Do your research. Make sure you get a good one that has good reviews and has the capability to calibrate. And I would definitely get the calibration kit. Make sure that you calibrate it appropriately. But yeah, I've talked about that in the past. Very good tools to always have is a good pH meter and a TDS pen. Those can come in really handy. Let's see. What do you call a fish that makes other fish laugh? Gill splitter. Let's see here. I have two iguanodonectes. I said it when I'm looking at the word, it's weird. But yeah. Looks like Spiralis. I'm saying that right. Right now, the info out there is pretty standard. I'm just wondering how to get more. They seem to never get them in, so I'm assuming they're a wild caught. Yeah, most likely. I mean, a lot of that stuff. Let's see. I was planning on doing a carbon block on the whole house, but just haven't done it yet. Yeah, you can do it that way. I'm not sure. Are you guys? I'm assuming you're on a city water source. Yeah, I've done it several different ways over the years. I used to run those as well, especially when we had our first fish room. I think I have some videos on it. I don't remember. That was several years ago. No longer even have that fish room running. Let's see. Took down until last week the African banded barb spawn right on. Collected about 2 dozen. Nice. Congratulations. Let's see. But yeah, going back to the pH question, what I always talk about, you guys, is consistency is absolute key. If you've been doing this hobby for at least even 5 years, if you've been doing it for 10 years, and I know many have. I mean, I've been in this hobby for seems like a billion years at this point, as I'm sure a lot of you guys as well. You'll notice that fluctuations, and once you get to a point, testing can be good, but sometimes I find that folks can over test and start reading too much into it. If it's not broke, there's no need to try to fix it. Stability and consistency is absolute key. If you're doing a water change regimen on a weekly basis, essentially you want to try to stick with a weekly basis. If you're doing every 2 weeks, you want to try to do it every 2 weeks, so on and so forth. Consistency, especially when we're dealing with livestock within home aquaria setting, and we're limited oftentimes on capacity. In theory, obviously, a larger water volume of a system, essentially, the more stability there is. Yes and no. Again, consistency is absolute key, and maintaining good husbandry, obviously. And I'm not discouraging anyone from testing. However, like with that example, if you're getting like a skewed result, um, obviously you can retest to see if it's happening again. But I always ask the question, why is one testing in the first place? Um, if this is a season, a well-established ecosystem, is there a reason why? I guess the test is happening. Maybe there's a bacterial issue that's happened. Maybe it could be a number. We could sit here and mention a number of different things. However, I know, especially with newer folks coming into the hobby, don't get over consumed by constantly testing and testing and testing. It can, I think it in in the short term, it might seem like it's the right thing to do, but I feel like in the long term of things happening, you can get a bit overwhelmed, where you're constantly. It takes away from the enjoyment of what it is that you have happening, especially if you only have one system. Um, you'll eventually get to a point where you could simply just really look at the psychology and the behavior of what it is that you have going on and be able to identify certain things, from an outwardly appearance, and then something might you could just look at, okay, the gill seems to be off a little bit, or it kind of seems to be fluttering, or that fish, maybe now is an appropriate time to react. And again, I'm not being contradictive, is what I always preach, being proactive rather than reactive. Having good consistency and stability, trying to put some preventions into place. As an example, if you want to use like a carbon block filter to essentially filter additional sediments and that sort of thing before you're, introducing into that system when it comes to water change. If you're doing automation, if you're doing continuous drip system, in the list goes on. Let's see. So the tank was not being okay. Really not anything in it. Gotcha. All right. So I think this is, I want to say, the sixth Monday in a row that I've done here a live stream on Mondays. I think what I'm going to do is I might be doing these every other week, or every third week. I don't really necessarily going to push it out to once a month. However, it's tough. And again, anybody new, I definitely appreciate it. However, at that time, there wasn't a lot of us really doing a lot of live stream content. And I've already really covered a lot of stuff. So it's hard for me to come up. I try to figure out what is an appropriate topic that would be not only appealing to more advanced or intermediate aquarists, but also some beginner aquarists. And I'm not knocking on this channel. Has always really been geared towards a more elaborate but yet practical approach, where you kind of take the science and the hobby perspective and join it into one. And it's tough to sometimes convey that through a webcam. It's much different. Anybody that knows me on a personal basis, they come to our fish rooms. It's much easier for me to educate because I can sit here and I can actually show you. And that's where the hands-on practical experience comes from. It's one that not only can talk about it, can actually display what it is that they're talking about. And I'm a huge advocate for that. And, I thought about even today doing a live stream from the fish rooms. However, it's just, it's the video quality is just really poor. But even then, it would be me essentially visually kind of doing what we're doing here and then visually showing various systems. But yeah. Let's see. New to the hobby. New local Austin. Well, welcome to the stream. I'm new to the hobby and I'm testing once a week, and the results determine whether I do a 25 or 50% water change. Ammonia or nitrite, it gets 50%, have lots of green water, bare bottom tank. My fish tanks aquatics. Hello. All things fish, Mike Wentworth. Find your stream similar. Well, I appreciate it. And again, anybody that knows me on a personal basis, I can really, really nerd out. I try not to do too much of that here through the interwebs, just because a lot of times it's just one ear and out the other over somebody's head. As with anything else in life, this has been what I've been doing, not only from a hobbyist, but a business standpoint for many years. So, yeah. And I'm never opposed to other ideas. The chances are, if we discuss, it's one thing if we kind of start, narrowing it down to species specific. If we're talking about a certain fish, it's never really been my thing. There's a lot of other channels out there that have done species profiles. I've done some of that stuff before, but yeah, it can get a bit tough when you're just focusing on one specific species of fish or that sort of thing. So yeah. Muppet 929, hello. Is that enough to maintain stable tanks? Okay, let me look at didn't really see it as a question, so let me review that again. I'm new to the hobby and testing once a week, and the results determine whether I do a 25 or 50% water change. Again, when it comes down to water changes, when it comes down to testing, is obviously understanding how to interpret those tests, making sure that you get a good, reliable test. Like I was saying, personally, I don't like to test strips. I find that they're very inaccurate long term, especially if you're doing them on a regular basis. That's just my experience. In comparison, I'm not saying that they're horrible. I've used them. They give you a baseline. However, if you use the liquid, and again, that can be also misleading, because if you don't know how to do it or don't fill it up to the appropriate line, that's why I'm saying if you're testing constantly, and I get, being new to the hobby, it's common for individuals to do that. But I always try to recommend, when you're first getting into the hobby, now, there's so much social media and that sort of thing. Chances are folks, when they're getting into the hobby, have probably already stumbled across this sort of information. And that is having a good cycled media, whether if that is utilizing a box filter, some bio balls, some sort of really good season and seeded media to help jump start the overall nitrification cycle in a newly set up system. I've talked about this years back, talked about this several times. When you think about certain bacteriums and microbacteria within a given ecosystem, it doesn't matter the size of the tank. Not only are you going to be finding that on your substrate, you can be finding that on decor, you're going to find that on plants, you're going to find that on your glass, you're going to find that basically everywhere within that system is going to contain certain levels of bacteria. Of course, you have different types of bacteria when you think about anaerobic and aerobic bacteria. So once you start getting more familiar with that, understanding appropriate zones within a given ecosystem, again, I covered a lot of this stuff a few weeks back in greater detail. You want to have appropriate turnover rates. So you don't want a lot of dead zones within a given ecosystem. Obviously, stocking load is a contributor to that. So the more you stock, obviously, essentially, the more waste produced. However, when you do alternate and skip feeding, is again I talked about 2 or 3 weeks back, talking about appropriation of diet confusion and overall skip feeding. So let's think about intermittent fasting as humans. If you're going through a regimen of intermittent fasting, and again, everybody's bodies, they metabolize differently. However, the general consensus is through, intermittent fasting, if you're trying to cut weight, kind of detoxify your system. That's why I'm a huge proponent. I've talked about this and I've helped a lot of other people in the hobby over the years. Other people kind of jumped on some of the regimens that I was saying and noticed a lot of successful results from it. Again, if it's not broke, no need to fix it. I'm not saying stop what you're feeding, just things, kind of food for thought. So if you're feeding several times a day, essentially, it could be uneaten food. Snails can help to a point to help kind of remain balanced, harmonious ecosystems. Adding good foliage, some live plants in there, depending on what it is that you have stocked in there, that can also help. But again, not feeding every single day, skip feeding, not feeding even 3 times a day. And again, the program for which you have set for your system is going to differ from somebody else's. Again, it really comes down to stocking load. And at the end of the day, you could follow everything exactly to the T, and there's still going to be variables. I know that's really probably not the best answer. However, if you're finding stability where the overall nitrification cycle has now shown that it's in balance, you have livestock in there, you've done some of the other things I mentioned, then you can get to a point where consistency is key. Understanding how you're doing your water changes, whether if you're using a python, if you're using whatever method it is that you're getting water out to introduce new water in. Temperature is very important. Match temperature per temperature as close as you can within a degree or two. You can use other methods as well. However, use just a basic dechlorinate. Easy way to do that. You can use a liquid form or a powder form, depending on what manufacturer you use. Follow the manufacturer's recommendations. Go ahead and introduce that, and then top it back off, and then you're repeating the process. Personally, every week it's fine. You could do it every 2 weeks. But again, it really comes down to stocking load. It comes down to plants. It comes down to, again, there's always factors. That's why I always say each ecosystem is its own little science project, for lack of better terms. There is no one system that's going to be like another. Assuming they're all on separate systems. They're not, linked together or anything like that. So, yeah. All right. You are welcome. Again, it's tough to really convey through through a camera. If I had workshops set up and had folks come and I could share things in person, actually go through it and physically show, then it's a lot different story. So I used to do a lot of that stuff in the past. Like I said, it's probably not necessarily titled that way. May not be the greatest audio, but I can tell you the information for the most part is there in a lot of those old videos. I was never there for, necessarily for the views and that sort of stuff. I was just started this to help try to educate. And of course, from a business standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, that sort of thing as well. Let's see. But yeah. All right. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Just put at Sergeant Tank, all one word, along with your question. Again, today was just a general Q&A, no specific topic. And I don't like to just keep repeating. It just sounds way redundant when I constantly am repeat myself over the years of doing these. I may end up just pushing it back. Like I said, we might go back to every other week or something like that. Yeah. But if there is no other questions for me, then we'll just go ahead and we will wrap it up. I'm going to give it just about another minute because I do realize that there is a delay. And like I said, just keep an eye out over on the community section here on YouTube. And once I've scheduled a live stream, it might even be the day of. It's going to be, I'll try to schedule it. I'll try to schedule it first thing in the morning, like this one I scheduled this morning. I've scheduled them in advance, and it really honestly, now with the algorithm, we kind of fallen off the radar because we haven't been consistent here on the platform as far as actual edited and uploaded content and that sort of stuff. So kind of get lost down in the bottom. But yeah, it might even be the day of. It might be a couple weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. Might be next week. I don't know. If I come up with a topic before then, I might hop on. But yeah, ever reseal a tank? Several. I've built tanks. I've resealed several tanks. Very easy to do. Let's see. I don't think we have any videos on that, but yeah. Does a club solicit donations for your auctions? That is one of my duties. Haven't asked for 2 years due to COVID. Wondering if companies are responding. Yep, we still get sponsors. Yep, our company, Sergeant Tank LLC, is a sponsor of our club. There's a lot of other sponsors. We have a ton of sponsors. Absolutely. Yep. Just because, don't let that restrict you. Just because, and I get the mindset. I can see both sides of it. However, a club still needs to, as a non-for-profit type organization, it still needs to function. Obviously, as you know, when you're bringing in different revenue to help offset, obviously, the cost that goes out for facilities, for running those events, that sort of thing. If you're not recouping some of those costs, you still need to either work something out with, if you are renting a building for your meetings or for your auctions. That's what we did initially when all this happened. They were very generous due to the fact they just kind of, and again, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but yeah, either work with them or reach out to sponsors. I mean, the worst thing that they can say, and one thing I will say too, when it comes to that, make sure if you have first of all, make sure that you have a website. And second of all, if under your sponsorship section on the website, that's one of the points why you become a sponsor. Why are you supporting? And you're providing not only monetary contribution, you're providing your time, resources, other donations of items and that sort of thing. Is the expectation, obviously, in the return is to at least have your name on the site with just a basic link to whatever their website is. I've seen that on other sites before where that information is not there, and that can definitely burn some bridges if you don't do that. So, but yeah, hopefully that I'm kind of on the same page of what you're mentioning there. Hopefully, let's see. Stream from the fish room would be cool. Yeah, I've done lots of those. It's just, even with a Wi-Fi booster extender in there, it still doesn't help. Let's see. Let's see. All right, you guys. Well, we're on about 40-minute mark. I'm going to go ahead and just cut it short here. Appreciate you guys showing up. Like I said, keep an eye out for that community tab. If you want to check out what livestock we currently have going, check us out over at sergeanttank.com. You can browse around on the website, get different links and that sort of thing. Yeah, with that being said, you guys, I appreciate it. And we will see you guys right back here on the next one.